All right. So I mentioned I had to go up on the north slope and deal with a spill. So I thought, maybe there's some value in sharing with you guys what I did and how I managed the situation. To give you a little background on it, there was a tank, estimated 10 gallons spilled. It's on ice, but obviously with a snow layer. And so emergency responders went out and they recovered a whole bunch of snow and thought they had got it all. Well, under better conditions, they went back out there and realized that they could still smell fuel. So the product was number two diesel. And don't get hung up on the product because, again, this could be anything we could detect, we could do this with. And I'll just show you how I manage it. I am in no way, shape, or form saying, I'm super good at this. This is just what I do, and it works for me. And if we ever get in a situation where we need to delineate like a hazard area, maybe this will give you some insights, on kind of how that's managed. So we got out there, and what you see in this picture here is these are flags, and all these flags were numbered. And I handled this spill differently than maybe I might handle another spill, just because the responsible party could stand in the exact spot where where the spill occurred, and they could show me exactly where they had removed snow. Now, it doesn't look like there's any snow removed. That's because they covered it back up. So with the tundra thawing out and all that, they did not want premature thawing. So after they removed the contaminated snow, they backfilled it with fresh snow, just to not leave this big exposed hole, and the tundra thaws out in that one spot early and damage the tundra. Because it is tundra under the ice. So this is the edge of an ice road, actually, and the ice that was under the snow was overspray, if you will, from their ice road construction process. So as you can see in the picture, there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to these flags, but where I started was where the spill occurred. And then so the spill occurred right about here, if I remember correctly. And they had removed a bunch of snow out here. So that's actually where I went first. And you can see these two flags out here. And I didn't get much out there. And I'll show you guys a little diagram of my flags. And I can't remember the readings for each flag. But essentially what I would do is I would go out, I would burrow a hole in the snow. When I got down to the ice layer, I would scrape the sidewall of the snow in the hole I dug in and fill it in a baggie. Now, there's this thing that DEC has that's, it's a headspace test, and it's really designed for soil. It's not so much designed for snow, but you want to make the diesel volatilize, and of course, we all understand vapor pressure, and the colder it is, the less volatilization you're going to have. So what I did is I heated these baggies of snow up on the defroster, and I didn't melt it completely because I don't need to. What needs to happen is I need to warm up the airspace inside the baggie, and what would happen is I would accumulate a bunch of water in the baggie, and that was kind of my sense to determine, okay, it's warm enough, I should be able to get a PID reading. And the regulatory agency gave me a limit of 50 doing this. And, like these flags out here, I got nothing, dead zeros. Now, every flag is numbered, and I just had a list. And I apologize, I don't have a picture of my list to show you, but essentially, I just randomly numbered the flags in consecutive order that I took samples. And all I was trying to do is figure out where this diesel went and, delineate it. And I know it looks pretty chaotic, but we had a pretty good delineation of the spill. And some of these flags, the VOCs were in the couple hundred range. And so essentially what happened, and hindsight's 2020, we didn't know this yet, but the first responders actually chased the spill out this way, if you can see where my cursor is. What they didn't know is it also kind of went back on them this way a little bit. And this is where we were getting hot reading. We're also confirming out here that there was no, actually, this picture I think is missing a few flags. Yeah, there's a few more. So what we tried to do is confirm that it didn't get out here, because right about out here is tundra. So thankfully we saw no results out here either. So here in this picture you can see the ice road. So a vehicle slipped off the ice road, didn't roll over, but it tipped, and the spill occurred right about here. And so these two flags were, just to see if it went that way. And that's obviously, you can tell, upgrade, but I wanted to make sure that, we got everything there. It was really clean out here. It was really clean out here, but towards like where the camera was this way, there was a little kind of channel of snow, a little plume of snow that was pretty hot. Now, one thing I'll tell you is every hole that I bored into the ice, or into the snow rather, down to the ice layer, there is absolutely no standing product. I mean, none. And the other amazing thing is if you held snow up to your face, you could smell diesel. But even grabbing the snow with just my gloved hands and throwing it in bags, my gloves didn't even smell like diesel at the end of the day. So, how much diesel is in the snow? We're talking like minute. In fact, Tyler did a video, not very scientific, but an experiment I appreciate out in the field, where he took baggies of snow. And the thing is, I was using for my samples the little sandwich size bags. He's using gallon bags. And I'll probably upload that video because I want you guys to understand what like 1, 2, and 3 drops, I think, is the experiment he ran. How much you can get on a PID when the diesel is volatilizing out of the snow. It'll probably surprise you. So weather, you can see it was super flat light. It was just not very good conditions. In the PID quiz review video, I said how I couldn't keep my nose warm. The wind was blowing. It was not a lot of fun, but we got the job done, and we had a pretty good idea of where the diesel was. Now, I mentioned that I did this on this spill because I knew exactly where the spill occurred and where they had cleaned up. If you don't know that, that's when I would probably set up a grid. However big you think you need that grid to be, but I would probably pound stakes, run some string, some lines across the spill, or even if you're not going to go through all that heartache, at least kind of measure out your flags and where you're going to sample and do a very formal grid. More times than not, I kind of do it with the way this picture shows. It just looks like a chaotic mess, but basically you find the source and then go outward from there. And I kind of just run my sampling in like a spiral fashion. Obviously, if I get out there and see some, grade, I'm going to follow the grade, things like that. But just have a plan is what I would tell you, a sampling plan. So just another shot of the flags. There's a lot of flags out there. I want to say I had 25 flags out there altogether. And that was really what we did day one. So there you go. I did a little diagram. It's not to scale. I just wrote them down pretty much the way it looked out in the snow. And again, I'm trying to write this all down with gloves on and the wind howling and all that. You can even see I had 2 flags way out there, 7 and 8. But it kind of gives you an idea of where I started. I did 1. 1 was clear. I did 2. And actually, can't remember why I started over here. The spill occurred like around here, if I remember right. But you can see 2, 3, 4. So, I'm getting some hot stuff in here. So I'm like, I wonder if it went this way. 5 and 6. And if my memory serves me right, 5 and 6 were where they cleaned up, and I pretty much got nothing. So then I went out here just to make sure that was what 7 and 8 was. Got nothing out there. So I came back, and of course this is all, you take a couple of these samples and then you throw them in the truck and you take your reading and then you go back out and it's just chasing it, right? So then I'm like, okay, I got to see how big this thing is. So that's 9, 10, 11, 12, because 9 was a little hot. So I went farther up on the road. 12 was clean. So it's like, okay, and 9 wasn't even above 50. It was like around 30, but I knew it was there, right? So actually our cleanup level is somewhere in here. It's on this side of 9, but it's really hard to get a 30 PID reading when the highest you get is like 200 and ignore the 30, So truth be told, when we came back, we actually dug past 9 and recovered some of that snow too. Because, hey, you know what's better than 30? 0 and no smell of diesel, right? But yeah, this just kind of gives you an idea, 10, 11, this is just where I was going to delineate this whole spill. You can see out here 17, 19, 20, 18, 15. This is like, okay, I want to make sure it didn't go anywhere else, right? So that's what the initial flags looked like. I'm not going to bore you with every picture, but we went out the next day. We had very flat light conditions. We had snow blowing. You couldn't even see the road. So we got that beast there. That's a piston bully. And we followed it out in pickups, but he actually was plowing the road in front of us as we're going down the ice road, because we have to get there with pickups and people. So what I did is I jumped out, and my very chaotic flags, I pulled every one that didn't mean anything to me. So the low numbers, right? And I only left the ones where I wanted them to dig. And then I showed the workers, I was like, all right, hey, check it out. Here is where I want you to dig. And they started removing snow. Now, we would not do this on the hazmat team. Typically, we're not going to go out there and shovel up snow. We would turn it over to spill contractor. But again, I thought it'd be kind of nice to show you guys the whole process. So they started digging up snow and putting it in bags, and they were actually shuttling it to a big cubey looking thing. And so what would happen is they would shovel up to a flag, and once they stopped at the flag, and actually I said I pulled flags that didn't mean anything. The ones that did mean something, I also picked up and moved back about 6 inches. So what I would do is when they got to a flag and they had dug out that section, that I would take another sample there. And then I would take a new flag and I would replace the numbered flag with the actual reading I got for a clearance sample. Or if I didn't like the reading I got, I actually just put sad faces on a couple flags and planted them like another foot back in the snow. And say, okay, guys, that's not clean. You need to dig to that flag now. And so I didn't even worry about recording numbers unless it was a number I liked. If it was, 0, of course, that's a number we all love, up to 10. I think the highest one I got was, I think you'll see it in the diagram, but like in the 20s maybe. And that's where we decided to quit. But I wrote in the part per million on the edge of the spill saying, okay, we're done there, right? And so that's the big cubie they were shuttling the snow in. I estimated they removed about 4 yards of snow with shovels in about an hour. These guys got with it. They did not mess around. They filled up that cubie, and we actually could add 2 of those cubies because they wound up generating a whole bunch more bags of snow. And again, you guys, I want to reiterate that I am wearing like pack boots that are fabric. I had my cold weather pants on that are fabric and would soak up diesel. I had ski gloves on, like some warm weather gloves. I'm kneeling in the snow. I'm bagging up snow. None of my clothing, 0 of it, smelled like fuel when I got back. And I know I'm smelling my gear, don't judge. But even before I packed up my bag, I smelled it again with a clean nose, so I didn't get kind of used to the diesel smell. And I smelled nothing. And the odor threshold for diesel is less than 1 part per million. So, I mean, we are looking at just trace amounts in this snow. I mean, just not even enough to stick to your clothing and make your clothing smell. So here they were waiting on me for clearance samples in some of this area, and you can see I got a little stack of flags out there that I was writing on. So once I got it, I think we had to dig a little bit more and remove just a little bit more snow just to make Dawn happy. But that's the end result. So that is, and like I said, the spill actually occurred here, and they cleaned up going this way. And there was just this little swath that was going back that they missed. And of course, they had low light conditions, not good weather. And honestly, what they missed was not a big deal. But we have, regulators for a reason. So here were my clearance samples. So the highest I got, that's a 4. Again, it was super cold out. Oh, the highest I got was 17. So here we got 17, here we got 16, 4, 2, 2, 3, 13. You can see I only wrote down part per million once because, like I said, it was cold and I'm out trying to diagram this. And then I also gave the guys a little bit of grief. I told them it was a moment because our spill was heart-shaped and, But I threw a tape measure on it, so it was about 13 foot, perpendicular to the road. It was 13 feet away from the ice road and then about 14 feet across. And so not a large area, but, in the grand scheme of things, not a large area. But when you're out shoveling in subarctic conditions with snow blowing down your back of your pants, it's it's a larger area than we want. So yeah, that was kind of the spill. I don't know. Hopefully that gives you guys kind of an idea. If we ever have a spill and we have to delineate where it is or want to delineate where it is, that's just kind of the process I use. I prefer numbered flags and then listing what I got as a result in part per million on just like a write in the rain notebook. And the reason I do that is because you're going to plant a flag and then you're going to take the sample where you planted the flag. Then you're going to go get the results of your flag later. And so it's really hard to write down the part per million when you're first delineating this because you'd have to go back to every flag and write down what it was. Well, I'm not going to do all that. I just write a simple number on my flag and then make a list of it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Anything you can leave in the comments, please leave in the comments. And if you got questions, ask me questions and I'll answer the best I can. And I will also upload Tyler's experiments with the snow and the drops of diesel because it's pretty interesting. I think you guys will be surprised. All right. Have a good day.